Hello everyone. I am Manish. I am new to the investment side of things, let me say, but be more on the execution side of things in financial services, in impact, and I think I will let Ruchira do most of the talking because she's the expert on the investments. But let me set the context because we were doing part of this conversation outside the room before we came here. So two basic things I think I should lay down also because we have very short time and we want to maximize that time. So the basic view Ruchira or IFC has is, should I say IFC or should I say Ruchira? But either ways, if you're working in this space, then impact is necessary but not sufficient. And I completely agree. I have been on the other side. Unless you are thinking of sustainability, you will not be able to set any enterprise in whatever space which leads to larger impact. It will stay an experiment. So let's start from there. So Ruchira, did I capture it right? And any other big advice that you have for everybody here?
No, absolutely. You did capture it right. And for those who may not be aware of what we do, IFC is part of the World Bank Group. And the World Bank works with governments across emerging markets. IFC is the private sector arm, and we invest across sectors. Infrastructure, manufacturing, agri, retail, financial services, telecom, media. And I lead the Disruptive Technologies and Funds division, focused on direct equity investing and VC fund investing. We now have 20 direct investments in South Asia, 17 of which are in India. And we have invested in 9 VC funds in India. I'm very proud to report that of the 17 direct investments that we've done, which are all early stage tech investments, 9 have grown to be unicorns. And that's what I mean about impact and commercial viability going hand in hand. So the way we look at our investments, the impact side, the development angle is very important. I usually don't spend time with companies or startups that have a purely commercial agenda, even though they may be very good for making returns. If they don't have a development angle, it's something I won't spend time on. However, the impact story is, as Manish was saying, necessary but not sufficient. So the impact story is what we hear first, and then we say immediately, almost immediately, what is the path to profitability? Because unless an enterprise has a path to profitability, it's just money going one way. And at some point, capital runs out. There's only that much donor money that will be available for whatever cause is out there. Ultimately, these initiatives need to be self-sustaining so that there can be more available to plow back and grow the initiative. I'll pause there, Manish, back to you.
So Ruchira, what are the sectors which in a way are attractive or are necessary? Because long back it used to be just health, education, financial services.
So over the years, we have invested across almost every sector in the digital economy. We did vertical e-commerce with investments like Lenskart and Big Basket. Strong impact stories. Lenskart addresses the need for good eyewear and nationally, right? Big Basket addresses the need for farm to fork, getting supplies of good food products and grocery supplies to wherever they need to go through a very efficient supply chain which avoids wastage, which reduces the cost and finally gets it to the customer. And so we started there, then we went on to do education. We are early investors in Baiju. We have done upgrade for higher education. We went on to do e-logistics. We are investors in Blackbuck. We've invested in B2B e-commerce with the likes of Power to SME that connects raw material buyers, so manufacturing companies that are looking to buy raw materials with their suppliers. We've invested in Bizongo, we've invested in Moglix. So It's been B2B e-commerce, clean tech, health tech, agri-tech, vertical specific e-commerce, education. It's a broad spectrum of sectors. Fintech is a big sector, as you know, the IFC is invested across various enterprises there as well. That falls under a different part of IFC. I don't personally do fintech at this time, but it's another very important space that is disrupting, and you've also been very active in that space, so you very well know. So it's sector agnostic, and we see a lot of disruption coming. There is still a lot more to be done in health, right? The early solutions on health have been around teleconsultations, e-pharmacies, e-diagnostics. We are yet to see a lot of innovation on medtech, devices that can allow for diagnosis at the point of care, that can allow for early screening of complex diseases like cancer, genomics-based solutions. We've recently backed a company called MedGenome, that is South Asia's leading genomics player. And in fact, they have a lab in California because they're building the world's largest South Asia genetic database and allowing global pharma companies to use that database for drug discovery. So a lot of innovation in health that is still to come. There's a lot of innovation in climate that is still to come. There will still be a lot in fintech. And the other sector that is worth mentioning is SaaS. India has long been the IT services provider for the world. India is now becoming the IT products provider for the world. We are seeing AI-led SaaS coming out of India, reach globally, and do very well in some of those markets. So there is a lot of innovation, and I am quite bullish that we will find great opportunities.
No, I completely agree. And India seems to be not just in a way growing, but also leading many of these new innovation change globally. And of course, G20 or many of these are carrying, or in a way literally taking these agendas to different parts. Any more things that you are seeing in other parts of the world which you think should happen in India, especially in this whole startup ecosystem, which will lead to more and more of this the growth cycle or the innovation cycle go forward?
So India is doing very well in building the digital rails on which innovation and customer adoption of digital technologies has seen a surge, right? India is exemplary in the India stack, be it Aadhaar, UPI payments, the health ID, the DigiLocker, you just name it. There is more and more innovation happening, and layer after layer, there has been this streamlining of connectivity at population scale, which has allowed some of these solutions to happen. So I think India right now is leading the way. We as World Banks hear of a lot of other economies that want to build their digital public infrastructure the way India has done. Right? Where more can be done, I think as we were talking just before we walked in, is international linkages. Right? There can be a lot of innovation from outside India that can come to India, and Indian innovation that can go out not just to other parts of Asia, but also to other markets. And I think that cross-learning, given that the world is increasingly more connected, increasingly able to cross-pollinate their ideas across market, that we can do a lot more.
So for a minute, going away from this, so in terms of pure tech, because you are heading the disruptive tech portfolio there. So in my experience, very early experience of trying to sell technology to microfinance institutions, let's say, and who have been a big driver of impact and providing capital to all the lower end of the mass market in India, there was a big resistance. I remember starting from there. And slowly now, of course, tech had become ingrained in everybody's working. It's considered to be a very basic thing. But if you go to the disruptive side of things which is happening, and of course, everybody is debating the role of AI, machine learning, is it going to be ethically correct, or will it change things, or where will it lead to? So what's the advice there for, again, broadly, let me try to contextualize this in the social enterprises context, where the impression everybody has is that they are typically lagging in this, while the cutting edge adoption of tech happens by the other big disruptors out there. So where is the right balance? What's the recommendation there?
So let me start by saying that for emerging markets, adopting tech will be the only choice, right? Let's ask ourselves, how many hospitals does India need so that every citizen is well served? The number is so big that India will probably never be able to build that many hospitals, right? How many high quality teachers do you need? How many high quality schools do you need? For almost every basic services, the degree of physical infrastructure and human resource capacity required will be so huge that most emerging markets will not be able to meet it in the foreseeable future. The only way to fill that gap is technology, right? To use teleconsultations to meet that rural customer, right? To use online learning to educate where people do not have the best teachers. So tech is a way in which emerging markets can leapfrog forward. So that's the first idea I'd like to put across. And so whether some of that tech may be created in India, some of that tech may be created in a different country but brought into India, because India has the benefit of large numbers, right? 2 years ago, I was at the Health Tech Congress in Israel, and there were 300 startups that were only innovating for women's health tech and women's health tech. And they were all looking for a market. So post my panel, they said to me, look, we have innovated, but our country has 9 million people. Where are the people? This is the country that has the people. This is therefore the country which has the data. And data is needed for AI, right? So if you can bring some of those technologies here, deploy them at scale, the kind of data sets you will generate, and which will then make the the AI algorithm stronger and stronger. This is the market where the deployment at scale can happen. And a lot of those startups are wanting to come here. And that goes back to what I was talking earlier about cross-pollination. We have a market to offer. We have a sort of hotbed for experimentation to further improve those technologies. And talking of AI, yes, it's going to be ubiquitous. And I think we will figure out a way to use it well. It's not perfect. It has its gaps, right? Generative AI, there's talk of data, the hallucinations that happen, incorrect information that gets thrown at you. We will figure out a way to use that to every business model's advantage. So when I meet founders now, I tell them, you don't have to put AI in your PowerPoint to tell me that, therefore we should invest. But I would like you to think ahead and say, how can these tools, especially the open source tools available out there, how can they help you plug holes in your model? How can they help you maybe build your model more efficiently with lower resources in a more capex efficient manner, because you've been able to use some off-the-shelf tools, right? The other idea on disruptive tech that I'd like to put out there, especially when it comes to all this excitement about AI, right? For each of these large language models that are created, the kind of computing power that's needed. And we talk of climate impact, right? We should think a little bit about the energy intensity of some of these technologies, right? And there will have to be the right balance on to what degree are these technologies helpful to us and so should be used, versus when can they be a big and heavy cost to the planet.
So on the cross-pollination of ideas, and I agree with you completely. I also come across similar business models happening even within the country in different pockets, sometimes supported, sponsored by some incubators, sometimes some VCs who are supporting them. And I'm sure globally also similar problems, people have found similar or different solutions. Anything in particular you think we should be doing in the ecosystem for this cross-pollination formally, or anything that IFC already is doing? Because I didn't know this. Today, when you gave out that number, 170 companies plus that you have invested in, and 9 of them being unicorns. You yourself have so much of repository of good, models which have done good for the ecosystem. And I'm sure there are equivalent ones in China or other parts of the world. So is something happening there, or what can or should be done?
So we definitely are very proactive. IFC convenes a lot of events where we bring founders from across the world together. And so there are events like this where people sit on the stage on a particular, it could be all startups in genomics, right? One from India, one from California, another one from someplace in Europe, exchanging ideas, exchanging thoughts on what is possible. We also, so we do that by topic across different, we do it in Africa, we do it in the US, we do it in East Asia. We also work a lot, as you know very well, with governments, right? So we try to co-host events, which again can be convening events for bringing people and stakeholders from different countries. But beyond what IFC is doing in its own capacity, and also informally, right? Like, so we have a CEO of a e-logistics startup in China talking to a CEO of a similar e-logistics startup in Bangalore, talking to another CEO of an e-logistics startup in Sri Lanka, and figuring out what they can each do better, right? Like, and very recently, last month actually, one of the CEOs was this was a Sri Lanka-based company, they were having a lot of technology issues. And almost immediately, we connected them to 5 CTOs in our portfolio. And after having spoken to all 5 at the next board meeting, he reported back what he learned. And there's so much the peer learning that comes from, again, across markets. So you're not competing, but you're learning from each other, right? But this is what IFC is doing at its level. But I think the country, right, when we're talking about institutions, academic institutions, in the other room that we were just chatting, there's a lot that academic institutions can do, right? When you host your events, when you invite guest lecturers, there are a lot of international schools who bring their students back to India. So I've been asked on 2 occasions to speak with the INSEAD class of entrepreneurship that was visiting Gurgaon and was coming here to meet startups, right? Similarly, our startups can go to other countries as well. So there is a lot of bilateral government collaboration that can make this happen, bilateral academic institute collaboration that can make it happen.
Oh, very interesting point. Okay, sorry. And yeah, a very interesting point that you made around the role of education institutions, because I don't think we have as yet formal courses around entrepreneurship, and more of that can really bring about this skill in a way, because entrepreneurship also is partly natural, partly skill. But yeah, maybe more of that later. I think we are out of time. Thank you so much, Ruchira.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you all.
Thank you.